Welcome to Gardening with Daddy Pete. Let's join our host, Melvin York.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Melvin York, and you're listening to Gardening with Daddy Pete. It looks like spring is upon us here, and I've noticed that we have the early camellias are in bloom, and they're just beautiful. Also, I've noticed that we have a lot of the Bradford pears are blooming. Some of the other fruit trees now are coming along. I'm seeing plums starting to bloom. Our forsythia, which is blooming, autumnalis, are blooming. I've noticed that the irises, the lilies are coming up in full fledge, among other things. Grass is greening up. So it is most definitely an indication that spring is here. Now, we usually talk about here on Daddy Pete's Gardening, we talk a lot about growing vegetables and fruits and things that is edible. But to now, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the flowers and different ones that you put around your house for beauty in the spring and for the summer and even into the fall. I want to talk just a little bit about annuals and talk a little bit about perennials. Now, if you get a moment while you're jotting down some of these things, you can afterwards go to our webpage, which is daddypetes.com, and you can go back and look at the different archive of podcasts that we've done. You can listen to those, or you can join this one. Also, you can ask a question or leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you on that. And you can sign up for our monthly newsletter of gardening tips, which is free to you. Just go ahead and sign up and leave your email, and we will be more than glad to send that out to you every month. And as we go on, before we finish the podcast, we'll talk to you just a little bit about the products we have that'll help you achieve some of these goals and making sure that your yard and your outside lawn area is going to be gorgeous all through the spring and the summer and the fall. Now, the difference between a annual and the perennial is simply this. We have annuals, we got perennials, we even have a biperennial. Now, if you're planting either one of those from seed, usually if you plant annuals from seed, you'll get blooms this year or the year you planted. If you're planting some of the perennials from seed or some of the biperennials, you may not get any bloom the first year. It may take one cycle to get that going. But if you're using you're buying plants that you set out or that you transplant, then more than likely you will go ahead and you'll have the blooms the first year. Now, the first thing I want to do is talk to you a little bit about the annuals, and these are transplants or seed that you plant for flowers, and those do usually only last 1 year. Most of the time, the frost will kill these. If not, a light frost and a heavy frost or cold weather will end that life cycle of that plant. So, but they're still beautiful, and we like to see them. Now, different ways that people use them and buy them is you'll see annuals in pots. A lot of people like to have pots sitting around, even on the edges of their pools, sometime at focal points where you come into the driveway, different parts on their patio, and that does work well for your annuals. They're easy to grow, easy to keep watered, and therefore most of them bloom continuously all the way through the season. Some things with annuals is you have to do a lot of deadheading with some of them, especially the petunias, some of the marigolds, those different type of flowers. Once that bloom is gone, then it does kind of look really bad on the rest of your plant. So deadheading those are no more than just simply removing that dead bloom. And that may be something that you do to keep everything in peak condition. When you do take those off, please throw those in the garbage. I don't like to see things like that go in your compost bin, because there still is a chance that you have a seed head there. And if the temperature's not hot enough, you could be actually growing some annuals next year that you may not want in certain places when you use your compost. So make sure that's the thing that we do on that. Now, outside of pots, a lot of people have annual beds, and they plant those every year. A lot of time, people will use the annual beds for spring planting, and sometimes they'll add some summer blooming plants to that in between a lot of the spring plants. And then come fall, most people will use something like a petunia, a snapdragon, and the all-time favorites, the pansies. They do last well in cold weather. Believe it or not, when springtime comes, they usually pop back up, start blooming again. Now, the one thing about a pansy is here in the North Carolina region, they are considered an annual. But you move on up into the northern regions, and they are considered a perennial or a biperennial, mostly a perennial, and they'll come back year after year. I have seen certain varieties of pansies that's been left alone here come back year after year after year. So usually violas will do that, which is a smaller version of the pansy, a smaller bloom. But I do have those in some beds, and they come back every year. If you're not real careful, they'll be in your yard. They do like to spread some. So that's one of the different ways. We've got annuals for beds, we've got annuals for pots, and yes, we have annuals for hanging baskets. Again, these are something that we have to buy or grow every year. Now, here's the part that I think works well, and that's a perennial bed. A lot of times you can get perennials that's going to have the same look, and when you make those perennial beds or turn that annual bed into a perennial bed, you plant the flowers one time. Now, if you like to change out your flowers or from different annuals at different parts of the seasons, then I would suggest that you use pots or even hanging baskets with that. Or maybe have it where you're spaced out enough where you can add some annuals into your perennials. But here's the thing, with a perennial bed, you are done buying plants, if you catch my drift here, and then you get to enjoy it year after year. You just keep make sure they're weeded, add some more soil to them, keep them mulched in, and they take care of themselves over the winter time with the proper care that you give them with the mulching and all, and they're ready to go next spring. Now, one thing that I like to see in both beds, and when you space these out, and again, we're going to get back to talking about vegetables, but people don't think about using a lot of vegetables in your annual or perennial beds. But think about it. How much more beautiful is a squash or zucchini plants with their huge leaves, their abundant size yellow blooms. They could be used on back into the bed and used as a back border. Take a pepper plant. They're more than beautiful. You wouldn't want to go with, unless you want to do a big long runner with pumpkins or cucumbers or anything like that, unless you're looking for a vining effect. You want something to go up the vine. Again, you could use these vegetables in that perennial garden, or you could use that also in your annual garden. There's a lot of different things you can. Strawberries is one good one. They have a beautiful plant, but they do spread. They put off runners that will jump out about 12 inches. And if you want a strawberry bed by itself, that'd be a great time to catch that runner as it comes out, roots, take it and transplant that into a new bed. But again, they will be invasive. So you've got to watch plants like that as you go on. A lot of times in our vegetable gardens, we like to incorporate certain flowers to help with insect control. Marigolds is one of them. So we do plant them in between certain plants. So just to give you an idea, number one, to save some money, you can convert a lot of annual beds into perennials. Number two, you can mix them. That's a good way to do it. Number three, you can mix your annuals and perennials by doing the perennial bed. Keep your annuals in pots and or hanging baskets. Then that way you can still change your colors around. Number four, you could space your perennial beds out enough to where you have it where you can insert those annuals in your perennial beds that'll go along with the colors. So there's a lot of different ways that you can take annuals and perennials and use those. If you're using your perennial or annual bed as a focal point for the center of your garden, again, pick the ones with the height on the back, like zinnias, come downward and make a stair step design, and you will enjoy that all spring and summer. So just giving you a few ideas there. Even some vegetables, like I say, work well in your flower beds, whether it be in perennial or whether it be annual. Now, if you go to our website again, we talked about that earlier in the broadcast, which is daddypete's.com. And if you will go to our product page, our list of different products, you will find that we have anything you need from our planting mix to which helps start building your beds, whether it be an annual bed or whether it be a perennial bed. Then we do have a perennial mix that you can do that. We've got a potting mix that works good for the annuals that you can incorporate and bring that bed on up to size and start using that. We have a raised bed mix that works well if you're doing raised beds for vegetables or herbs. And that's another thing, too, I didn't talk about. Herbs is another good thing to put in that perennial garden. There are perennial herbs and they are annual herbs. So you can incorporate either way you want to go there. But you look in our website and our product page, and you will find that we have a product for anything. We have our potting mixes. If you're going more of a shrub type on your perennials, you may want to use one of our perennial mix for those in your pots. Hanging baskets, you'll want to use our Peat Light. You can look through that. Works well in annuals. And if you're using those pots for annuals, I would suggest you use our potting mix or either our Peat Light in those pots if you're doing annuals. Or herbs. Another thing, herbs can be used in that too. So anyway, just wanted to give you ideas here at daddypetes.com and gardening with Daddy Pete. Again, I'm Melvin York, and I certainly do appreciate y'all listening in, but I do encourage you to go to our website, and if you have a question or a comment or a topic you'd like to hear us talk about, we certainly would love to hear from you. Well, again, it's spring and we're ready to get on with it. So here, what I'd like to leave you with here on this Friday is a very, very happy gardening weekend. Go out and get those hands dirty. Let's see what you can plant, and drop me a line on the website. Let me know what you planted this weekend. Well, until next time, this is Melvin York, and you've been listening to Gardening with Daddy Pete.
Thank you for joining today's Gardening with Daddy Pete. You can check out our website at daddypetes.com for additional gardening tips and our podcast at gardeningwithdaddypete.podbean.com. You can also join us on Amazon, Apple, or Spotify.